Good morning. Well, I don't know if I mentioned it lately, but I grew up in Oregon, in the Willamette Valley south of Portland, and we had a lot of fog. I remember one year, October 1983. It was what I called oscillating fog. It must have been at least a week, maybe 2 weeks. It would warm up during the day a little bit, and visibility would go up to maybe a mile or two. And then as the sun went down and it cooled off, the fog would close in down to a quarter mile or less. It was gorgeous. And it was October, so kind of creepy. So out here at the lake, still frozen, even though it's 40 degrees. Dense fog advisory from Texas all the way to the Canadian border. And so I thought I'd come out and show you. It's just gorgeous out here. And yeah, we're going to get real deal cold starting in October. Since we're holding on to the ice, even though we're above freezing, we're going to be below freezing pretty much December 31st through January 12th and maybe beyond. We'll show you the real deal cold. We'll show you the severe weather expected again in the southeast and more. Let's send it to the studio for more from the weather Mike. Mike, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Mike. You look a little pale out there. You all right? Everything okay? All right. Back in the studio. That was fun. I love the fog, and I love listening back to myself. I misspoke and said October, starting in October instead of January. But those real deal cold temperatures are coming in January. This is January 9th at noon, and the cold air is not going to go as far south as we first thought. And we still have some time, so we'll see how it goes. But certainly in the Midwest and the Northern Plains, it's going to be really cold. Single digits here in western Iowa at noontime on the 9th. Single digits, eastern Dakotas and into Minnesota. And those 20s get all the way down into Missouri and, into the Midwest and further east. And this colder air will move further to the east through the Great Lakes first. Throw those wind chills in there on the 9th, and it's below zero here in Iowa and the Dakotas and Minnesota. So yeah, a chunk of cold air is coming to parts of the United States, and of course we'll keep you posted as we get closer. But there it is, dense fog advisories right now, Texas all the way up to the Canadian border with dew points are pretty high and matching the temperatures. So that's what happens. You get some fog, and that's what we have, even though it's 40 degrees. Very warm for this time of year for our low temperature. Meanwhile, up in the Northeast, could see some ice, winter weather advisories. And then in the West, it's a whole bunch of stuff. Winter weather advisories mostly in the blue, but a few winter storm warnings here for parts of Idaho, into Wyoming, into Utah, into even parts of Colorado, and some wind issues as well. Anywhere from high wind warnings, high wind watch, and wind advisories, depending, all across the West. And my camera is acting up this morning. We're just going to go with it. Severe weather yesterday in Texas and Louisiana, and severe weather could happen again today. This is Mississippi, Alabama, Florida Panhandle, a little bit of Louisiana with a low risk of tornadoes, just a 2% risk. But there is a risk. But the day I'm worried about is tomorrow. We're looking at an enhanced risk of severe weather, Louisiana, Mississippi, into Alabama. The slight risk gets into East Texas, more of Alabama, almost all of Louisiana, and then you see the marginal risk around that. And the tornado risk is something to take serious. In the yellow, that's a 10% chance of a tornado anywhere within a 25-mile radius of any given point. And the hatched area is what we call it when you see those crisscross lines, could see some large tornadoes in this area as well. The 5% risk in the brown and the 2% risk around that. So do keep an eye out for tomorrow for severe weather in the southeast. And then on Sunday, the chance of severe weather moves to the East Coast from Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, into Georgia. And even a marginal risk goes all the way up into Ohio, down into Florida. So could be a rough weekend for some in the southeast and then the east central part of the United States. Anomalous temperatures this morning. It's warm. The whole country is above average and much above average. Like here in Iowa, we're 20 degrees above average at 40 degrees. Yeah, our lows should be closer to 20. And you see just the whole country above average, slightly below average East Coast. That 24-hour temperature change, a little cooler in Texas after that rain and thunderstorms. And just ignore the man behind the curtain. Keeps fading in and out. And then our current temperatures look like this morning. 50s in Texas, even some 60s with those high dew points, Louisiana, Mississippi. And again, that's our risk for severe weather with those high dew points and that upper level low approaching. Meanwhile, in the Northeast, that's where the coldest air is. Also the Rockies. Your chance of precipitation next 2 days, ending Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Could see 2.5, 3 inches of rain in some areas here in the Southeast, getting into Tennessee, Kentucky, and even the mountains of North Carolina, South Carolina could see up to 4 inches of rain. Meanwhile, the northern California coast, southern Oregon coast, up to 4 inches of rain. And then along the Oregon coast, lighter amounts as you head north. And some of that's going to fall as snow in the mountains, and 2-3 feet of snow, parts of Idaho into Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, the Cascades of Washington, just kind of massive. All right, here's your surface for today. Thunderstorms in the southeast, some possibly severe. Rain all the way up into the Great Lakes, crazy. There's your chance of ice, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, into Massachusetts. A mix, Minnesota, Wisconsin, some ice in North Dakota, and then some snow getting into the Rockies, heavy snow for parts of the west. Otherwise, it's rain or snow depending on location and elevation. Tomorrow's surface, there's your severe weather outbreak, could be serious, East Texas through Alabama. Meanwhile, ice continues up in parts of the Northwest. Heavy rainfall, Northern California, Southern Oregon, flash flooding possible, or just flooding possible. And meanwhile, heavy snows in the mountains in the west. Surface on Sunday, continuing with some heavy snow in the mountains in the west. Heavy rain, Northern California, Southern Oregon coast. There's your severe weather chances, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, with ice up in Maine. All right, let's take a look at the GFS model starting with this morning. We're already seeing thunderstorms right now, Kentucky into Tennessee, and we're seeing a lot of snow out here. Idaho into Utah, parts of Nevada, Oregon, and Washington. It's raining in Boise, but man, that snow's not far away. All right, let's go through the day today, and we see the snow kind of fading out, but kind of heavy in Utah as we get into this afternoon. Rain for eastern Iowa, maybe some drizzle here with our fog. The fog may lift some, but it's going to be it's kind of cool out there right now. I'm looking out the window, it's still foggy. It's just so eerie. I love it. Anyway, light rain across parts of the east. As we go to this evening, we see that rain shield moving into Wisconsin, raining in Green Bay on December 28th. This is just crazy. Anyway, a few thunderstorms here in eastern Tennessee, and rain and snow for the Pacific Northwest on the heavy side. All right, this is midnight tonight. As we get into tomorrow, we see rain and snow, Wisconsin, UP of Michigan, a lot of rain for the Great Lakes, and then we start to see the heavy rains busting out from East Texas all the way into South Carolina, some snow up here in the west, heavy rain, Northern California as we get into Saturday. This is afternoon. Big storms, heavy rain, Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, rain and snow in the west. And then we continue into Saturday night. Big thunderstorms for Tennessee, northern Mississippi, into Kentucky, parts of Virginia. And then as we get into, this is midnight Saturday, and then Sunday, that severe weather heads into the mid-Atlantic where we showed you the severe weather chances here for Sunday. Very heavy rainfall, Oregon coast, Northern California, snow in the mountains in the west. Very heavy rain moving out of Ohio into Canada, and very heavy rain here, especially the mountains of North Carolina, into South Carolina and East Tennessee. Virginia, you too. West Virginia, you too. And that's where we could see the severe weather on Sunday. This is noon Central Time Sunday. Meanwhile, heavy snow in the Sierra Nevada of California, rain and snow in the west. As we go through the day Saturday, the low lifts northward, the heavy rain along the east coast, snow a little bit on the backside, and as I fade in and out, and rain and snow in the west. Should just disconnect the camera today. Anyway, rain on the east coast, rain and snow in the west as this is midnight Sunday. As we get into Monday, the 30th, we see some snow moving into South Dakota. Snow for Wyoming, finally, you guys. A little bit of snow for Montana, northern Idaho. As this low moves out, rain all the way up into Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Oh my goodness, the rain in Maine. As we get into Monday, this is noon Central. Turning into a little bit of a snowstorm here, South Dakota into Nebraska and Wyoming. And as we go through time, it's going to rain here, eastern Nebraska, western Iowa, along the Missouri River. Omaha expecting rain. Harlan, Iowa expecting rain. Will it change to snow? Well, the snow's creeping in as we get into Monday night. This is 9 p.m. Still raining. Omaha into western Iowa, but snow not far behind. Mixing with snow, maybe around Omaha, maybe around Harlan. And as the storm fades in western Iowa, maybe a few snowflakes. We're not expecting much here. Although the Canadian is more optimistic for some accumulating snow even where I live in western Iowa. So we'll see. The official forecast from the Weather Service says rain mixing with snow. So we'll see how that goes. The low moving into Illinois, Indiana with some rain. This gets us into the early morning on New Year's Eve day. So rain in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, moving into Pennsylvania. Some snow here in Colorado as we get towards New Year's Eve. This is at 9 p.m. Central. Heavy rain near New York City into eastern Pennsylvania. And light snow in the Rockies. Midnight. Will it be soaking rain at midnight for the ball drop in New York City? It could. It might. All right, let's go through, and this is the first day of the year. Some snow sinking into the Texas Panhandle, parts of Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, southeastern Colorado. Another storm moving into the Pacific Northwest with heavy rain and snow. You see the cold air. This is not the real deal cold, but it's cold. Cold enough for snow for parts of Oklahoma. And this will definitely will be felt, the colder air. Snowing in Maine. All right, the rain becomes snow in Maine as we get into the evening of the 1st. And this is midnight on the first day of the year. Cold air through the middle of the country. And a little bit of rain here for the Northeast. Rain and snow for the West. All right, who's going to see a white Christmas? I'm sorry, white New Year's. According to the GFS, well, not western Iowa, but maybe northwestern Iowa might see a little bit of accumulating snow. Certainly South Dakota into Wyoming. You guys haven't had much snow, so there you go to start the year. And, of course, a lot of snow on the ground in the Colorado Rockies, into the northern Rockies, and the mountains of the west, and right along the northern tier of states with Canada. All right, 8 to 14 day temperatures. Best chance for below average temps would be the East Coast. Best chance for above average would be the West Coast. And Texas above average. That cold air peeking in North Dakota, below average temperatures. And your precipitation, above average precipitation, a good bet for the northwestern part of the United States, northern plains, northern Rockies, below average precipitation, mainly for the southwest, but through the center of the country to the northeast. All right, it's going to get cold in January. We got to get through this severe weather first, and we'll talk more about the cold as we get closer. All right, fog outside right now. Maybe I'll go back out and take some more pictures. You have a wonderful day, and we will update you again tomorrow right here on the Weather Mic.